Hello and welcome. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I'd like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. Procyon, one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. They specialize in employee benefits, wealth management, and retirement planning. President Sean Rabinowitz, proud supporter of our podcast network and everything we do. Green Street Trust International, owned and operated by Rennell Jump and UConn legendary men's basketball player Jake Voskuhl. They specialize in tax plans for businesses large or small. They will save you money or get you a big fat return on your taxes. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session today, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. Pete Finch of the Finch Law Firm is located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you've suffered any type of personal injury, slip and fall, a car accident, your mother-in-law ran you over with her car, your wife got angry one night and decided to stab you, the Finch firm is for you. Pete has won legal battles all across the state of Connecticut. He will go to war to get every dollar you deserve in compensation. You just have to remember, in a pinch, call Finch or go to his website, thefinchfirm.com. Dynamic Human Performance is owned and operated by UConn legendary running back Andre Dixon. He trains boys and girls of all ages, all sports. He has a boot camp program 7 days a week, 6 a.m. You want to get in shape, you go to Andre. He has an athletic development program where he trains boys and girls in the sport of their choice from the ground up, helps them reach their full potential, be the best they can possibly be. Andre has sent boys and girls to college on scholarship for all different types of sports. To work with the best, he has a 5,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility in Hartford, Connecticut. Go to www.dynamichumanperformance.com. All right, and here we are for Broker Than You. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I would also like to thank Matt Newsy, the top RE/MAX agent in Connecticut for several years running now. And I told Matt that we would give him a trial run and see if he got any business out of us and hopefully get him on as a sponsor and have him sponsor this show and have him come on this show because he made a great difference. We had over 60,000 viewers last week. So that is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Top RE/MAX
Go ahead.
agent.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
I don't know what else to say. He's a top RE/MAX agent in Connecticut. He can sell your home, buy your home, do all that stuff.
Well,
if you want to work with the best, work with Matt.
amen, dude. And my mother was one of those 60,000 viewers. She's like, hey, that was a great show. I'm like, what, with Newsy? She's like, yeah, that RE/MAX agent. That was awesome. So I don't know if she listens to all of them, but it's like, oh, all right. That's why, I keep it nice and clean here for my mother. Not here. She would prefer I clean shaven. But
no,
did we
but
do an intro to everybody? Did everybody know Fresh?
No, we'll get to it. Well, yeah, Fresh. Nedvonne Young, FreshFold Laundry Company, entrepreneur extraordinaire, and he's the producer now of this show. So
love it.
I appreciate
it. taking some of that work off your shoulders. And before we get into any questions or topics, one of the things that I want to mention, because I need to do it here soon, and I usually do it like wild card weekend. Yeah. But it's a couple fold. I've done it for a bit. My father, it is like one of the gifts we look forward to for years now. He has put together an annual calendar. All right. And so when he does that, he goes through and like the kids' birthdays. Even this year, he put on like, he'll take the pictures that where am I going? the pictures that he takes throughout the year, and then he puts people's birthdays. This year, he even added their basketball schedules. But one of the things that I have always done, and for anybody that is not, doesn't like the idea of goal setting, right? Like, oh, I got to sit down and write my goals out. Let me tell you something. What my dad used to do is we would use an artificial tree for Christmas. We celebrate Christmas, the birth of Christ. And when we put the box away, he would always, what happened in 2025. And so I have for years just written down a list of like goals or things that I want to accomplish. And my first one in 2005 goes back, and it's like, how many homes do we own? Name of our niece or nephew. And we had just had, Lucas had Alexis. Did Levi find a girl? So it went from that. And so this past year I had Mackenzie and Drew sit down and do it. And it started giving me chills because I
not going to Geneva, please.
No, we haven't decided yet. We're not sure.
Okay, good.
But the first thing, and now we need to work on their penmanship, but the first thing that Drew had written here, and he wrote it on January 4th of 2025, and it said, did I make varsity? Now, he starts on JV, and he gets some run in varsity, but it was just so cool. And then did I jump and lift? Have I dropped 40 points? Have I grown 5 inches? I'm not even kidding. Has Grandma lost any more toes? Thankfully not. Is Ruby alive? Our dog that we had to put down. Did we get more animals? We did get a Bernese Mountain Buck. And then how much do I weigh? So that was Drew's. And it's just something where it is so cool when I put this, 2025 calendar away and I tuck away, and I've started, my list for 2026. Just things like businesses I own, like how well have they done? How many franchises has Meg sold? Different things like that where we don't necessarily think of as goals, but, I've seen all these new apps with betting. Hey, bet on yourself, dude. Write a few notes and say what you bet. Put some money in there. Do something fun. And if I accomplish this, I'm going to spend $500 or do something. Make it fun, dude. But goal setting does not have to be this arduous task of, oh man, I got to. It's like, dude, just put something down, pen to paper, think about it, and then be able to reflect on it. And we talk about this with journaling and things that help both my, ADHD, whatever acronyms I might have. But it's just some way to feel organized, set goals, reflect back on it, be grateful. So I need to do that this weekend, but it's just a cool way. I'm so thankful that my dad makes these calendars for all of the family members. We all look forward to them. And he keeps adding to it. So I literally have like the last 10 years or however long he's been doing it. So cherish your loved ones, set goals. If you didn't, hit a goal that you wanted to, set a bigger one next year, man. So that's all. I just wanted to get into that because
you're absolutely right.
I don't know if you talked about it, and it's something for any business owner, any household. Just set some goals, have some fun, bet on yourself, bet on others, and again, be grateful and reflect.
It's needed for life. It's needed for life.
It just, there is proof that pen to paper sticks in your brain better. And my brain is so jumbled up, like a few of those cats that got lit up this weekend. I mean, lit. There were some cats that, and no calls for targeting. No. On particular. So it was fun to watch football again, but it does then bring me back. Or if you've seen a guy that got knocked out and he's knocked out, I hope he recovers okay. There was a basketball. I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but the hoopster that he playing UConn, the guy that had a concussion just came back. And then, he was chasing after a ball on solo ball. They collided. Dude hit his chin, and that was like the second concussion in 2 weeks. I don't remember where he was from, but it was definitely in the UConn game. And stuff like that. Doesn't matter if it's basketball, football, and that's where I think it can happen anywhere, but you need to be aware of potential head trauma and how to treat it. But
we do.
I promise.
And
I told somebody else the other day, my word for the year is listen. So I don't know about, co-hosting this podcast. I ain't listening.
Good luck with that. No, it's your show.
It's a goal, man. It's a goal.
Nah, I think it's good. So I just want to. So when you set your goals, it seemed like you're forming it in the form of a question. You're asking yourself, kind of like in a, what is that, in the kind of past tense, like
it's like
if it
Jeopardy
possibly happened already. Like, did I do this? Or how much?
Right.
You're asking the question. Okay.
And when I go back, I answer it in a different colored pen. Like, how many homes do we own? And I had written, I think, 3 as kind of a prediction, and that was how many we had acquired. Yeah. So something so that you can know what your original thought was, and then on the reflection, make note, because 10 years from now, when you look at it, I wouldn't be able to remember.
You're just working to have direction.
Yeah, but I think posing it as a question is the ultimate accountability. It's like, what are you going to do, bro? This is just you and you, man. You don't have to share it with anybody, but it's just something individually that's great to do, because, again, how big are your goals? How small are your goals? Are they big enough? And I think, man, if anybody saw that interview with Jameis Winston, where he said he didn't dream big enough, he just wanted to get to the NFL. He didn't want to win a Super Bowl necessarily. And I think it was Michael Vick he was talking to, and he's like, yeah, dude, I didn't set goals high enough. So, and I think that's true with a lot of us. And then, but if you say that out loud, people think you're crazy. Like, what? You want to be a 2-sport athlete at UConn? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, because, bro, I didn't care. I didn't care what people thought. I really didn't. And I didn't care to fail. But yeah, I think set bigger goals, dude. 2026 coming in hot.
Yeah. I like it, man. I think, especially in the way that you pose it, in form of a question, like you said, the accountability piece is really good to kind of just put it there. And then even if you don't hit the goal, it's like, okay, well, how close did I get? Or what did I learn from the process of even trying?
And sometimes you don't even realize what you were focused on a year ago. You know what I mean? Like I wrote it down, didn't think about it again, and I either did it or didn't do it at all, and it's now out of my life, going back to that Eisenhower matrix, right, of productivity. And I think that's, if you know where you want to go, it makes it a lot easier to decide what you're going to do to get there, and you better be in that important and urgent quadrant to be productive.
No, totally, you do. That makes all the difference in the world. And I agree with you. Setting goals makes the difference, because it is something for you to shoot for, something for you to work towards.
So tell me, how many viewers are you going to have on your show?
It's not about viewers, Laban. We gotta get some sponsors. We gotta get some more sponsors.
Well, I'm just saying, like you said, 60,000 on that last one.
I mean,
you gotta have goals.
The goals are sponsors. The goals are sponsors. If we can get 3 good sponsors, we'll be in solid shape. I mean, we're right now the number 1 podcast network in the Northeast, independent podcast network, meaning not affiliated with ESPN or anything like that, Fox. But we have more subscribers than Barstool. So
nice.
So I put out a post last night and kind of ran it as an ad, trying to target people, saying, hey, we are looking for sponsors. We can work with your finances, and we can deliver a return. And Sean Rabinowitz has been the biggest supporter of that. He's helped me tremendously, and I am doing a show with Robert Belcour and Kozlowski today again. So I'm trying to get them involved. But the biggest thing we're trying to build, my goal is really to build a network.
Yeah.
So everyone can work together, a network of our alumni and people that can work together. So I have that, and we bring someone on, and I can give them a couple leads, I can give them a couple referrals, and that was the biggest thing that I want to do. I want to be able to provide good advertising. I can advertise on YouTube TV now, so I've been taking advantage of that.
So tell me, if I were to ask you, okay, in 2024, which is when I think we did my first interview with you for Husky Talk, how
2023.
many shows? You just had the one show, right? In 2024?
Yeah, I was
And then
just
how
doing
many
Husky
shows have
Talk.
you added in 25?
I do probably about 15 a week.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
impressive, dude. So, like, that's a question I'd love to, like, how many shows will I have in 2026? I would love, and I mean, how much can you handle? I know you have Fresh coming on now to help with production.
No, I mean, I've been told to cut back, but I mean, I think that I want to try to have something for everyone,
Yeah.
you know? And
One-stop
that's
shop,
my
baby.
biggest thing. I don't want to, and Dave loves doing sports and thinks sports is where we should keep our focus. But we're getting,
I mean, listen,
just great
I think,
viewership.
and we've talked about this before. I mean, and even through economic recessions and things, sports is one of the constants as a business and a revenue generator. I don't care what you say. People need entertainment, they need exercise, and to get that culmination. I remember through the recession and the pandemic, even. I mean, cats were still
I agree.
pursuing it. You know what I mean?
I
People will
agree.
spend money on sports, and everybody, it's like real estate. Everybody likes to talk about it.
There's just so much content out there for sports.
Right.
And we do the UConn stuff. We do a general sports show. I'm doing some work with Air Force now.
That's awesome.
With my old athletic director. But it's tough because there's so much out there for it. So like business and finance do very well, those shows. Because there's not a lot of content and there's not a lot of experts like you guys to offer advice, and especially real estate.
Listen, and I'm sure Fresh can attest to it, because most people that want to talk about it want you to pay them to hear them speak. And I think we just can't give it to you straight, because anybody could call and set up an appointment and meet with me face to face and ask about homes. And things
of course.
And it's interesting. I thought most interesting about Matt's perspective was that Connecticut market is still so seller centric, because I'm here in Erie, and there's some sellers that wish they would have sold 12 months ago, because the market has shifted. It had begun to shift last year, and it has shifted. And I'm not saying sellers aren't getting what they want. Good sellers with well-presented homes that are reasonably asking are still getting offers, and sometimes over asking, but it's few and far between, unlike Connecticut. So it's interesting because of the supply and demand and the area. Like he said, people are moving out of the city.
Yeah.
Well, where are they going to move to? The next closest state that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think somebody else was just talking. My wife's in Texas right now, and I was talking to somebody who said they really a local. I don't know how much I should disclose. Well, he owns a very big brand locally, and he's like, man, if it weren't for the sports that I'm here watching, I'd be in Texas. My brother's in San Antonio, and he loves the weather. And so, I think that's where the weather certainly helps, but there's economics behind things like Connecticut's real estate market and what New York City is going through right now. And so it's just interesting, I think, to have those perspectives. And a lot of the times politics does get pulled into. I know last week when we talked, I was asked on last Wednesday night, I did an interview for a local organization called the Jefferson Society, who brings in former presidents and things like that. But they're trying to nail down locally and they didn't refer to it as urban sprawl, but like, why is the city of Erie, the population declining, and why are people moving to the suburbs and things? And so it's interesting because they have really studied it and done their research on the numbers, but then to get a perspective like mine, where I'm running, I'm on the sewer authority and economic development. And so I see early on, before these developers start to do things, they inquire, they do their due diligence. And so it's interesting to see, again, and we always see this when larger corporations are spending money again and building out and doing those things, the residential side usually follows. So we really need to get businesses kicking in again. And yeah, it's always interesting to get different perspectives from different regions for sure.
Fresh, what are your thoughts?
Down in the Carolinas.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to what, it's interesting. I think, so to touch on a couple things we were kind of talking about when you were saying like, kind of like it seems like you're getting a little pressure about like, hey, just focus on sports. And then you're like, well, but we have these other like real life issues.
Dave, yeah.
You have these real life issues, right? That are very interesting to people, because just be real for a second. Sports is, I would put sports and entertainment together, right? So you got sports and entertainment, right?
Exactly.
And one thing, but it's one thing. That's great that we have that, and we have that experience, we have that background. What's also great is that we have real life experiences, and you have these former athletes, these people that are so passionate about sports, that have this knowledge about real life things that someone else can do, right? Because not everybody could play college football or college sport and have the ties that we have, other than as just a pure fan. But everybody can get into real estate. Everybody can invest in something. So everybody can do that. So we're giving a little nugget that you can, all right, this is how you start. This is how you start your real estate journey. This is how you start your entrepreneurship journey. This is how you start your investing journey. That's lasting. That lasts. And just so happened that, hey, I like those guys because they went to my alma mater, or they played, a sport, and they did something like that. So I think you have to, I have the ability to look at things from a different lens. Some people get kind of like very myopic. They're very like tunnel vision. I see things one way. No, we have to open up the blinders, or break down a wall and see different, create multiple views so that you can see things from a different perspective. And I will always be, and I've always been a silver lining guy. If you guys remember, like even from when we were younger, I've always been silver lining. Somebody might try to be negative, I'll flip it to a positive. It's just how I am.
You have to.
And I think that's how I would encourage a lot of people to be, because the world tells us that, doom and gloom, right? The sky is falling, everything is bad.
Yeah.
But we have to be able to find a silver lining, to have some semblance of for one, to just make sure you have good mental health so that you stay sane. Because if you focused on all of the things that are going on right now, we just go through the news feeds of what's happening just in our country, right?
I know, yeah.
You could go, what in the world, like what is really going on? So I think it's good that we cross over, and then that we show, humanity, like we're we care about people. We care about people enough to share this information. And we pretty much stay on topic for the most part.
It's valuable information.
But we share information, and we just let people know, like, we're common, right? Just the name of the show, like Broker Than You. Like, look, we may have accomplished some things, but that doesn't make us any better than anyone else, right?
We don't have all the answers.
It's always, like you're saying, you don't know it all. One of the things I say to keep myself humble, and even though I've been a teacher and a coach, and had some accomplishments in business, and I've done some things as an entrepreneur, one of the things I always tell myself to stay humble is sometimes a teacher, always a student, right? So sometimes I'm the teacher, I'm always a student. So I can learn from anybody.
Great,
right?
philosophy.
I think that's important, that we keep that kind of mindset.
Well, and that's where. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Say, a lot of people commented, Fresh, last week when you were talking about your physical health and how important that is. And that resonated with a lot of people, because they always say, oh, I don't have the time. I can't do this. I can't do that. And you were saying, if you've got 10 minutes, just do something. 5 minutes, do something. And then just build off that. As long as you're doing some sort of physical activity, you're bettering yourself. And that's what you need. And I think a lot of people took that to heart, and it made a difference. It made a difference. We got some.
Let me add one thing to that before you go late. What I would say is, remember, like and you see my videos, and I've done 15 minutes of freedom. The reason why I picked 15 minutes. 15 minutes is 1% of 24 hours.
Wow.
1%.
Yeah.
So you are worth 1%.
You are.
You're worth at least 1%, right? So you're at least worth 1% to pour back in yourself. So much we will put, and if we calculate, if we just did a percentage of what 24 hours is, how much time are we putting towards social or something that's not that important to our families? And we pour into so many different things. How much are we putting back into ourselves?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I encourage everybody listening in at least 1%. Come on, in terms of your physical health, at least 1%.
Yeah. And I'll tell you one of the things, because you mentioned silver lining, and then you said at the end there, one of the things that I mentioned to her, like when the woman interviewing me said, what do you think Erie can do to help build back up Erie? And I said, I served on another committee for the Times News, and you want a slogan for Erie? Encourage Erie. Instead of when somebody opens a business, talk about how bad of an idea is or bad location. Like, you always hear that negative, Fresh, and you always do spin it. I think you have to be positive. But so much of Erie is, oh, that won't work, or we've never done it that way. And it's like, we need to get in, and then we need to regionalize, and we need to get rid of redundancy. I mean, when you look at a lot of the way government operates, there's redundancy, and you'd never do it in your household. Like, if you have 3 Netflix accounts, shame on you. But how's that any different than 8 different municipalities buying salt, and they could buy a bulk rate salt for our roads? You know what I mean? But we don't want to do that because this region, there's 28 municipalities, and they're all doing different things. They're like silos, where I mentioned to them, and I would get pushback, but like, we should just be Erie, Greater Erie. We have Harbor Creek and Waterford. If it was just Erie, wouldn't be the city of, but Erie, you'd have 300,000 people. It changes the finances you get out of Harrisburg. It changes a lot of things, but nobody wants to give up that power or authority, even if it is redundant. And then what they don't want, and this is the most frustrating part because it goes against us as athletes, is they don't want competition, right? It's like, okay, we're going to go from 8 sewer authority executives down to 3. Because it's too much redundancy. So we're gonna save costs here, but then 5 people are gonna lose their job. Which 5 should it be?
But
probably the bottom 5, right? Maybe we want to keep
manage
the top
it.
3. Well, I'm just saying, like, my point is hire the best of the best. And when people say we don't want to, remove redundancy because people are going to lose their job. Okay, but the person losing their job is the lesser of the 2. Don't you want the better individual? And I think, again, in athletics, of course. But we get out here in the real world, and it's like, no, you can't hurt Sally's feelings. She's been here for 50 years. It's like, yeah, but Sally isn't as good as Jenny. Hire Jenny. So, and again, I don't mean to go down a rabbit hole, but it's just like, I sit here, and the problem is so much, operations on municipalities at the lower level. When you talk about local, state, and federal, I mean, the local just needs to mind its own business and take care of its streets and its the things that it's hired to do. And yet everybody wants a job and or a job title. And so it's just challenging for developers that they want to bring in to develop and create more infrastructure. Well, it's developer driven. You have to incentivize the developers to want to be in there. And Summit has, we just don't have the land to do it. But we are starting to see an uptick in development around the area. So I'm hopeful that, again, this economy is churning.
Let me ask you this, because you're mentioning Erie and people leaving and everything. What would you say the key mindsets are that kind of shifts investors should make since the start of the year?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting question because specifically in Erie, it's not like they're leaving Erie as a whole. They're moving out of the city to the suburbs. And part of what that is the housing stock. Like, in the city, they don't have ample parking spaces, right? They didn't, because when it was built in the late 1800s, early 1900s, Ford wasn't pushing motor car. They weren't. It's horse and buggy. Same thing when you go into these old homes and the closets. I mean, most people are like, dude, my kids' stuff wouldn't fit in here, let alone my giant closet. So you go into these, like I had a buddy of mine that had a 4-bedroom house in the city. He converted the tiny bathroom, turned it into a walk-in closet, and made one of the 4 bedrooms the bath. So now he had a large bathroom with a walk-in closet, but only 3 bedrooms, which talk to any real estate people are going to argue about, is 4 bedrooms more valuable than 3. Okay, but the 3 now has a walk-in closet that none of these homes in the cities have. So you just have to think differently. And it's like, well, how accommodating can you be? Is it reasonable? And so in our city of Erie, we have a decent amount of blight. But there are zoning laws where if I tore down a property, which I had to do over the pandemic, well, I want to build, because the city doesn't have a lot of off-street parking, I would like to build private garages, right? I want to build 3-car garage on 20th Street and a 3-car garage on Crandall Street for a total of 6 garages. I don't want a house. I don't want a toilet. I just want to rent garage space so that homeowners that don't have a parking space can get off the street, so our plows can now easily plow the streets in the city, which is a major issue. But you'd have to change the zoning laws to allow me to build a accessory structure instead of a primary residence. We don't need more primary residence. We have housing for 130,000 people with 85,000 residents. So when it comes to the blighted homes, they want to have you demo it and sell it to the guy next door.
Right.
But the guy next door might want a vacant lot for his trampoline, but that doesn't really improve the city's infrastructure. What would improve the city is if we had more garage spaces that myself as an investor, I would happily build some private owned garages that now I can get local residents off the streets, make plowing easier, and now
what about
everybody's
like
working
storage
together.
units, something like that?
Yeah, you
Well,
did
and- but-
right where I was going.
Storage units, you get into different, like I use a storage unit and I promoted them. And one of the guys on Facebook comes in and from a local township. He says, "Hey, Waterford does not allow," and he printed off the code enforcement where you're not allowed to have structures like you're allowed sheds, but anything portable, you're not allowed. Can't even be in the backyard out of the view. So again, I mean, those are the things where, again, it sounds like a great idea, but if you don't go into your township and talk to them about it, you're going to start this business, buy a bunch of cans for storage, and now you can't even put them out without getting fined. So
Right.
that's what it goes back to, is that bureaucracy, though. And not only understanding the bureaucracy, but then can I get a variance? Like, is it worth going in, spending $500-700 on a variance for them to say, no, sorry, we're not going to allow it? So it gets into some deeper weeds.
So I would say a couple things with this. I'm a root person. So the root of the problem, I think so 2 things, right? I'm gonna touch on the investment side. My mind works from the investment standpoint. When he was saying storage, I was thinking more storage units, like actually building storage units, like facility, like whether they could they do micro storage unit facilities, like where you can put like a few where it will give you an opportunity to put storage and parking kind of semi-enclosed. You know how you have the big ones, but you might have micro. I don't know how big the plots are or whatever.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like where I own is right near St. Vincent Hospital. Now, St. Vincent Hospital bought a bunch of land, tore down some single-family homes, and built a commercial parking garage. It was necessary. I didn't mind it as a neighbor. But what I do mind is that I can't build a 6-car garage for residents, but y'all can build a 100,000 square foot parking monstrosity for your private business that doesn't pay taxes. So it's something that, yes, I think you're right. The root of the problem, though, is that we have rules in place from the 1900s that do not address the 2026 issues of everybody's got a car. A lot of families have 2, sometimes 3 cars.
That was the
and
second
so you
point.
got
I was
2 cars in the street and 1 in the single parking spot that's available. So again, I don't know who can spearhead it down in the city, but I don't have the time, quite frankly, unfortunately.
No, I mean, it's the city council, it's the mayor.
It's an uphill battle, though. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you need to encourage Erie, even in something like there was one council member who I respect. I actually like him as a person, but I own in the city, so I pay taxes. And he made a comment publicly that said, I don't care if you live in the county and own property in the city. I don't serve you, I serve the residents of the city. It's like, well, you're cutting out about 30 to 40% of your tax paying people by saying your only constituents are those who actually reside within your boundaries. And there again is part of the problem, is that we don't want to embrace the whole. We want to stay individual so that we can, and it's not even mind our own business. They all think they do it better than the others, so they don't want to get entangled. And yet, like, Mill Creek is doing exactly what the city had done, where they just announced again a Rite Aid on State Street. Excuse me, but I do want to talk about this because there was a Rite Aid on State Street that just got announced that Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine is purchasing. I went in and I screenshot the tax roll. Up until this year, they have paid $102,000 in property taxes. And that property, once it sells to LECOM, will pay zero. So Mill Creek in one parcel loses $100,000 of taxable revenue, which then gets redistributed to its residents, other tax-paying residents. So when people in Mill Creek of about 60,000 people, the city of Erie of about 90,000 people, the best thing that could happen is for Mill Creek and Erie to join and become Erie, Greater Erie, or whatever they want to call it. But again, they will never, ever do it.
They want their identity.
And so, again, how do you break through that? It's politics, but it's funny because Mill Creek will criticize the city, and then literally 20 years later, they're doing the exact same thing. So do as I say, not as I do. We see that and hear that a lot. But it really comes back to what's on the books, how are zoning laws written. Can you get somebody, and this is where if you serve on a board or a council or a committee, if it's written in black and white, use what's between your ears to see if that still makes sense. Yeah. And that's why I like serving on a board, because I don't mind speaking up and say, hey, that doesn't sound real good. Like, should we maybe consider changing that? And people then here in Erie like to say, well, it's the way we've always done it. But they don't, they might know the root problem, but they don't find the root solution. And give me something. Give me two solutions with the one problem.
What are you thinking?
So what I would say is, right, when it comes to I think you have townships all over the country where you probably have some similar situations. So, we here in Chapel Hill, I literally was at a, PTA board, PTA council meeting. We met with the superintendent. And so our numbers are down. So it's going to be, I think we spoke about this before, like they're going to end up closing some schools and consolidate, because you have obsolescence, because you have certain schools that are super old, right? And they have a lower population, and it costs more to replace an HVAC when you're comparing okay, if it's a difference between $300,000 or $400,000 to do a new building or replace the HVAC, that costs, that's the difference. And it's like, okay, we have they have the numbers are showing a steady decline, but if people don't understand how certain outside things impact the others. So there's always the impact. And with us, it's for me, my focus is the economic development plan on how the lack of affordable housing. So if we're here and it's great to be like, oh, my property value went up, it shot up, it's great and whatnot. But if we don't have, the problem is like what Laban mentioned, if there's room for 100,000+ people, but it's only 85, 15,000 more taxpayers is a lot of money that could be coming
that you're losing out on
to do things, right? And again, if your taxes on the average home is anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000 a year, that's a lot of bread, right? So that you could be pushing towards other things. So my thing is, you have and I think and this is something that's happening here as well. So we have some towns that are outside of Chapel Hill. We have like Chatham County and Alamance County, where it's a lot of development and things happening, but it's also less expensive to live there. So someone can be like, I could buy this older, more seasoned home. That's $1 million, or I can go ahead and spend $600,000 for something that is comparable. I'm a little bit further out. I have to drive 15 more minutes. Oh well, I'm gonna move there, and the taxes are lower. Like you created this because you want to be so exclusive, and I want to I want to be sitting up high on a horse. You shut out the common folk. And it's important. People don't realize you need that mix. You need a
100%.
mix. You need all levels, because then you give something to reach for. But what's happening is now you really only have kind of like upper middle class and poor, right? And then people that are wealthy. That's kind of like what you have. So the middle class, as you're saying, is shrinking and shrinking, almost doesn't exist.
You're losing.
So it's one thing when you're poor and you can like, oh, I know, I think I can reach the middle. But it's one thing to be like, oh, I just can't go from poor.
I can't get all the way
wealthy. Like, you're very discouraged. And then now to tie this back into, those are how to, like when you in poor planning and people kind of focusing, being more self-centered and focused on how they want, what they want for themselves, and being really self-centered and selfish. So you got to look at kind of some of the things we did. If you have children, like Laban out, right? This is something we did, whether we did it consciously or subconsciously or whatever. When we started our careers and things, that we already took into account what we wanted for this generation or 2 generations behind us, right? That we were already, this is why we are doing this stuff. It's not for us, right? Our kids are going to experience more and get more benefit from the things that we're building and doing now.
It's our legacy.
What seemed like happened is, in terms of government, local and beyond, it's like they lost that, right? I think the forefathers and people, they put things in place because they thought about the future. But then what happened is, as time went on and we got to our era and things like that, they started focusing more on, well, what does this do for me now? Opposed to, hey, we got to keep thinking, what about this generation or 2 ahead of time? This is why you have people who don't really take, like climate change that seriously. They're like,
No, they don't.
Like, I'm never going to experience.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm never going to experience the things that are going to happen. But it's like, look, the thing is that it will be a problem for people that you'll be like, oh, I'm going to dead. That's very selfish. So if people, what happens is you got these old guard people in government that we need fresh new blood, right? It's just like, and I liken this, and the last point I'll make sure you go, you can switch it up. I liken it to church, right? If you go to a house of worship or church house, churches die when they don't have youth, right? So when if you have older people in the church and they're running church and that's it, and I don't see any young people running around being involved in understanding this is what to expect, and I'm going to invest in being a part of this. So when you start isolating and you don't even when you preach sermons, you don't include these young people. If you can't talk to the young people, they're not going to want to listen, right? So if you can't talk to these younger residents or these people that are transplanted in, or the next generation coming up, they're like, I don't want to stay here in Erie or even in Chapel Hill, because what do I have to look forward to? You mean to tell me I got to pay all these taxes because they don't have enough?
They kick the can down the road. Yeah,
they're just like, you're doing all of this. So this happens again. I use the church as an example, but this is the same thing that's happening in government. They're overlooking the future, and because they're focusing on the now so much, they don't understand that the future will take. If you focus on the future and you keep teaching the generation behind you to focus on the future, everybody will keep taking care of everybody else. Yeah. Instead of doing that, you're like, I'm just concerned about what I'm doing now. And for me, I think that is the problem. And that's why things die. That's why governments die. That's why our government is going through what it's going through now because of selfishness. That's why churches that die, they go through that because of selfishness. That's why local governments, organizations, this is not new. This happens across the board. When people don't adjust, they die. Blockbuster, you look at all these old companies, they die because they don't adapt and they don't adjust.
Well, and one of the things to tie that all into real estate is, and I think it was Robert Kiyosaki recently and some other economists that have said, okay, we went through a bunch of inflation recently, but when it comes, and we need to get sellers out of some of these homes that have gained appreciation, but nobody's moving because of low interest rates. But even more so, I don't even think interest rates need to come down. as much as we need to look at capital gains. And right now, the threshold's $500,000 for an individual property. Well, in the last 5 years, we have had a major increase in property value. So let's just say for these old heads that are sitting on old money that don't want to sell right now, if Uncle Sam says, hey, in 2026, we're going to take capital gains from a $500,000 threshold to $1 million. So if you sell your home up to $1 million, you do not pay capital gains on, okay? Instead of $500,000. Now you got these homes for 1.2, 1.5, 1.6, 8.9, or 890,000, whatever it is, where it's like, man, if I sold at 890 under the current rules, I can only hold up to 500,000 without paying capital gains. But if I sell at 890 and the threshold's $1 million, man, now it's worth me selling my home, getting it on the market, because when these upper echelon homes sell, who buys them? The move-up buyer. Well, then who buys their home? The first-time home buyer. But the first-time home buyer, who you're talking about, can't buy a home because these old heads are sitting on them. So how do you get them off? And that was the first time I had heard, we always talk about interest rates, lower interest rates. Well, you might have to change the tax rules. And I mentioned before, when I bought my 11 unit on December 31st of 2012, I keep forgetting to Google this. In 2013, tax rules changed. That's why the seller sold me the property on December 31st of 2012. So what probably needs to happen is they need to look at the tax rules and some of these things that can get, because here's the other thing that I wrote down but didn't mention. There's not been a lot of real estate transactions anywhere throughout the country over the last few years. Do you know what every municipality receives on every single transaction? A transfer tax. Yes. When the casino sold recently, a couple years ago, couple million, Summit Township received almost $1 million just in transfer tax. If that and it's still operating, you know what I mean? But when you sell property, and my mom has said this before, it creates transfer tax. It creates jobs for painters, carpet guys, movers. I mean, we in real estate move the economy. And so when you look at these things and why is there a stall? Why are first-time home buyers priced out? You have to look at the whole thing. And a lot of it, and a lot of investors in real estate do so because of the tax incentives, whether it's the depreciation, whatever it is. So maybe we need to start looking at that tax. And I'm not, how many people, I don't remember what politician proposed, it was probably Rand Paul, a single page tax law. One page, just write it up in one page.
Well, we have more laws than, as Robert would say, we have more laws than we can enforce.
Yeah, and now we've decided not to even enforce those laws we have in place.
Yeah, that's what
or you're going to get pushback. But it is one of those things where we've talked about it and how vital the economy is, or how vital real estate is to the economy. And it's because of all of these moving parts. And I think, Fresh, you pointed out, like, the most frustrating thing, and I've said this before, like, I started investing in 2004. I bought my first duplex. If I had to start in 2026, I don't know how people do it. I don't know how young people do it. Even with dual income, no kids. Like, it is still, like, the math isn't mathing with purchase prices and current rent rolls for me to really make this a investment, because I know it's a lot more work than all these people talking heads like Fresh and Laban make it sound. It's not that easy. I'm telling you, it's not that easy. My license plate says passive income. There is nothing passive outside of the finances on real estate. You better work it, or it will not work for you.
Well, then let me ask you this, because it's obviously challenging. I mean, we've had challenges, a lot of them, early this year. How would you say, and especially you brought it up, new investors can build a resilient type of mindset to navigate those early challenges during this year?
Find good partners and advisors. I would say, take that back. Find good advisors and create partners.
Okay.
Because, and honestly, and I think this is where, like, our family business, like, I don't stress as much about my family business because I have my family behind me. It's stressful, But it's not just me. It's my family. It's as advisors. We have a multitude of advisors that help guide our decision-making and things. First and foremost, our Lord and Savior. We pray about things, but then we can't just sit and pray. You actually have to take action. You have to dig in, understand what's going on, why it's going on, and solutions for that. And that's where in the last 2 years, I have liquidated a number of my rentals.
Yes.
And I just looked at this because it's sitting here, and I've held this up before. This was over the years, the properties I purchased and what I had acquired, the timeline. And it's like, you can see I have not been buying property.
No, you said that. You've told me
Well,
that.
it hasn't been a great time to buy property.
No,
but it's getting close to that.
Market.
So
yes.
If you're
it's
a new
always a good time
investor,
to buy property if you buy it right. But it's
buy,
not always
listen,
yeah.
You make your money on the front end. I don't care who you are. You make your money on the front end. And I always heard, because I bought real estate 70 cents on the dollar, and I'm trying to sell it $1.10 on the dollar. And it's worked out pretty good. And that's hard to do, but you got to buy it right on the front end, and it makes the back end less important. Doesn't matter what type of market it is, you'd still be able to sell. Well, in the last 3 years, any seller can sell. Now you got to be a little more creative, and figure out solutions to some of these challenges, because buyers are starting to take more of a stand. And I tell every seller I meet with, it does not matter what I think this home is worth. It does not matter what you think this home is worth. It matters what a buyer is willing to pay.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
So I would say,
to
add to what you're talking about in terms of how you're saying like the mindset, how to build up the right kind of mindset and resilience.
Yeah, I mean, with the challenges that we're all facing.
Yeah. I would say, for one, you have to analyze yourself first. It starts internal, right? So once you 100%. Understand you need to understand your strengths and your weaknesses. So if you know your weaknesses, put yourself in a path that you have less temptation or less opportunities to succumb to the weaknesses. So that's one thing. So self-awareness, doing a self-assessment of how you function, like those things are important. And again, go back to your health, mental and physical health. You take care of that, then you have the energy, you have something to start to move towards the other things. Now, the things that Laban mentioned, having mentors and partners that are like-minded, that are doing the same things as well, but just have more experience than you or have other skill sets, are super helpful, right? So you build resilience when you have confidence, right? If I'm confident in something, I'm gonna be confident I can do it, right? Labe is confident. Like I remember like Labe was very confident about the things that he could do, right? Or he's still confident in certain things. You confident that you can train a kid. Like I'm confident I can get this kid to jump so many feet on this pole. Yep. You confident in yourself in that. 100%. But that's because of what? You've built that over time. You put the work in. So people have to, 1, self-assess. 2, be patient, right?
Yeah.
Rome wasn't built in a day. Transformation is not an event. It's a process, right? That's what my pastor used to say back in Brooklyn, Pastor Erie Bernard. It's not an event, it's a process. So give yourself some grace, set goals, set timelines, and really focus on having confidence in little things and have small victories. So we all want to win. So you build resilience when you build up yourself, you have confidence in your abilities and the people around you that you are working with or that you're seeking guidance from. And you want to have some results that whatever you're trying to do is working. So put little goals in place, like to check off, oh, I did that. Okay, whether that's new investors, right? I have a niche that I want to go into. Like focus on one particular thing. I'm gonna focus on this niche. That's some progress. Now from there, then how do I want? Am I structuring did I do the things to structure my business? Do I set up an LLC or do I have a bank account? Do I all of these things? Those are little wins, little victories. And then one of the things that Laban has mentioned this on multiple times. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. You have to make, he didn't use that term, but you have to make money. The money that you're making is the proof that you're having some progress and success. So even if it's a little bit of money, it's showing you that it works. Now you just have to scale. Okay, I only made a couple $100. Okay, well, how can I turn that couple $100 into a couple $1,000? Sometimes it's just a little tweak or a bigger thing. So
and one of the things I tell.
Give me 2 seconds. Let me just play one of the ads for our sponsors.
Hold that thought.
Okay.
Down south, we have the Trench Mob, run by Julius Williams in Decatur, Georgia. He trains offensive and defensive linemen. They compete in 5v5 tournaments and college showcase camps across the country. Julius has sent kids to schools like Florida, Florida State, Miami, Tennessee, Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, just to name a few. We have the Trench Mob podcast every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. If you want your kid to go to college and play Division I football and be trained by the best, you go to the Trench Mob. To contact them, go to www.battleofthetrenches.com. Nedvonne Young owns FreshFold Laundry Company down in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It's a high-end laundry service. They wash, dry, and fold your clothes for you. They have a pickup and drop-off delivery service, so you can have your laundry done in the comfort of your own home without ever leaving. You put your laundry in a clear plastic bag, put it out, they pick it up, everything is done, wash, dried, and fold, and it is dropped off to you within 48 hours. They offer an expedited service as well. They have an online subscription model. You can also book online to schedule your pickups. They have deals for college students. So if you're in college, wash your nasty ass, and you can go to their website. It's myfreshfold-laundry.com.
Wash your what, bro?
Did you
nasty ass? Wash your nasty ass.
I'm like,
I had to go with that interjection. I had to write down a few things so that I would remember.
Yeah.
But to tie that all back, Fresh, we talk about investors, and listen, you don't have to own anything to figure out what you want. And by that, I mean, if I talk to an investor and I'm like, well, what are your goals? Oh, I want to make a lot of money. And then I say to another person, hey, what are your goals? He's like, I want to own a duplex in Southeast Erie. I want to spend between $150,000 and $180,000. I want it to cash flow by at least $200 a month. What can you find me? Who do you think's going to find a place first?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, bro, if you're a first-time investor and somebody says, what are you looking for? And you say something that makes money, I can punch you. I can punch you right in the face because that isn't going to get you anywhere, dude. Like, so know what you want. Do you want a single family? And then here it is. Like, are you looking for positive cash flow? Do you care if it negatively cash flows, but will have a better chance of appreciating value? I have said, our duplexes always cash flow better, but our single families appreciate and value more. So what are you investing for? Are you a buy and hold? How long do you plan to hold for? So there's just so many questions for these first-time home buyers. But if I sit down with you for the first time and these thoughts haven't crossed your mind, you put your money and your checkbook away, take this year and start looking at properties, going through scenarios, running them by. And then, hey, if you saw something that you thought was a good deal and somebody else bought it, call them. Say, why did you buy it? What was the deal like? Most investors are going to tell you how they structure it. And here's another thing. If somebody can't explain it to me in less than 3 to 5 minutes, like I'm an 8-year-old,
I know
it was a shady deal, because real estate is not that tough. Okay. And people try to make it out to be, well, yeah, I've had guys say, well, you're a real estate broker. I don't really want to tell you the process. And it's like, yeah, because I couldn't do it. I'd be in jail. So just be careful, who your advisors are, and make sure, and I've said this before, most investors will show you their portfolio. pretty transparently and tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and be honest with you. So, and I mean, I had an investor locally, I think he even still invests, but a couple years after we were at a meeting for the apartment association, he said, yeah, I bought that 3-unit because you said it was a bad idea to buy multi-units at the time. That sounds like a great plan, dude. Okay. And now I don't know how it worked out for him, but please don't buy property because some other professional says it's a bad time to buy. You know what I mean? Like, take it to heart. I don't know if it worked out, and I don't know everything, but I'm certain he overpaid. I know because I saw the records. But again, do you, but make sure you're testing the market and you're talking to people who are actually in the market, not just speculating. Right? There's a difference between an investor and a speculator.
You want the experts. Fresh.
It's important to have like-mindedness, right? So for instance, right, that bring up something. So when Laban said, all right, Laban's perspective of point of view from his perspective may be different from a different investor. Both can be right in terms of like, hey, this is right for the profile of buyer that I am. Right. Mm-hmm. And fine. So the other person, the one that you said, hey, that's basically what you were telling him, right? For the profile of buyer that I am and I work with, it's not a good time to do that. For him, he just was like, well, I want to do this. Now, in the grand scheme of things, if you like, okay, if he overpaid, maybe by your standards, but by his, he might have paid a certain number. We don't know, right?
Yeah.
But it all depends on. Because
knowing you,
we talk about this all the time. You make your money going in, and the way you make your money going in by you knowing what your exit strategy is. If you're a buy and hold person, if you're going to buy it in terms in an entity, if you know the end use of it is going to be something different that's going to cash flow way better than you just putting a residential tenant in it. So another big thing that's happening that so one of the things I'm just snapshotting one of the exit strategies that I'm using with some properties right now, and I'm actually looking to get about to Lou and I Lou Wagner,
yeah,
are working on a deal that we're about to get going in Texas to convert a residential property to house homeless veterans, right? So it's going to be kind of like more of a group home situation, but you provide kind of everything for them. It's like they're there, they get internet, cable, food, and stuff like that. You provide all of those things. But if you knowing that, like, the government will pay amount of money, right? So let's just say anywhere probably between 8 and, depending on where it is in the country, probably between $8 and about $1,500 per bed.
Person. Yes.
Per bed, right? So per bed. And you can have let's just call it a 4-bedroom apartment, and you wouldn't put more than 2 people in a room. That's right.
Okay, so but just real quick, just be careful, because we had this in with colleges, and again, it depends on your municipality. If there were more than 3 people with a different last name, it can be considered a brothel. So, and again, this is where it just depends on where you're at and how many, like, both zoning brothel? For. Well, yeah, I mean, if like you had 6 college girls living in a home, like, all different last, like, it is, they might just be college students renting. You don't know what they, it's just the zoning laws tend to
it changes
cater to some of those things. And I'm just saying, if you're setting up your business thinking you'll get 8 guys in there, and then you find out, hey, they come through for, code enforcement, and there's no more than 3 last names allowed.
Yeah, for sure. To that point, this is a part of you doing your due diligence and knowing the things. So I'm somebody who we already know that we can do it, right? You can do this anywhere in the country. So you have certain protected classes. You have sex, age, right? You can't do ages. Like in real estate, you can't even talk about you can't be asking people like you can't discriminate.
Yeah,
so
no, you
can't. Have certain things you can't do to discriminate. Protected classes like elderly, veterans, and this is a thing where there's a need, right? So there's a need they have grants and things, the government has things in place to take care of veterans that are homeless, that need assistance. So if you're providing this, that's where it becomes a good thing. So normally, let's just say I would take the same, so the house that we're looking at, I think it's a 4 or 5 bedroom house. So let's just say it's a 4-bedroom house. 4-bedroom house, we can have up to probably, up to 8 people in there, right? At those numbers, when normally that house would probably rent, for $1,600 to $2,000 or maybe $2,500. But now you knock that out with 2 people. So now the exit strategy is different. Now, if I was buying a multifamily, right, that I can potentially do the same thing with 3 different units, right, and put in their people, like the cash flow, the money is ridiculous. So, but on the front end, you may not know my exit strategy, but you're like, I went and buy a multifamily right now because your strategy says this is the best for it. But my strategy says, well, I know what I'm going to do with it, so it makes sense to me. So you always have to understand that you need to identify what you want it to end. What's your exit strategy? What do you want this thing to end up as? And once you're able to do that, then it helps you give you more direction on how to move. But both things are true. Like you had for one, what I'm hearing, what hopefully people are hearing is that there's different perspectives, there's different angles. There's more than one way to get into real estate, to have success in real estate. And I would say, but to go on the flip side of it, I would say, and it's probably more than one, but I would say it's pretty much one way that you could go by failing in real estate. And I would say that's lacking knowledge. You're not lacking knowledge and basically lacking knowledge and being lazy. Because if you're lazy, you're lacking knowledge probably because you're lazy, right? You don't want to read, or you don't want to do the suggestions, seeking a mentor, having good partners. That's just being lazy. You just think, I'm gonna just do it. So I think that's the way to fail, right? So that's the way to fail. And if you're heading that way, if you're so headstrong that I got all this, I'm doing this by myself, I don't need to learn from somebody who's done it before me, you're probably gonna fail, right? Or you're gonna learn some lessons
the hard way.
The hard way, opposed to someone like, my man with the Fu Manchu right here could tell you some good stuff that's going to give you the foundation for you to have a very successful career in real estate, investment life, or just to buy a home that you can live in, and which is the kind of like the basis for that can lead to other things for the American dream. You buy a home, use equity, do some things with it, but you can't do any of that if you're just going to be lazy. You're just going to be like, all right, I'm just going to do what I heard someone say, but I didn't do any due diligence to see what sense it made. A lot of things are shared, so hopefully people are taking in this information and it can be helpful to them.
Laban, our good friend Chris D is on, and he just said, oh my God, it's the great Laban Marsh.
Oh yeah. See,
telling
tall tales.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, because you always are doing continuous education. What role would you say that continuous learning and adaptation play in maintaining just this successful investor mindset, having that positive, successful investor mindset?
Well, I think part of it is just trying to stay relevant as a whole. You know what I mean? And by relevant, I mean understanding of what's going on, paying attention, having your hand on the pulse, like Fresh is saying. I mean, lazy. And that was where I brought that Randy Edsel story up to somebody. And when he brought in those coaches and says, does Laban Marsh work hard? No. I mean, this goes back to, what you can do. But yeah, I mean, there's more time in the day than you realize. But yeah, I mean, honestly, you got to be learning. I don't care what the information is, just make sure it's accurate. But there are so many ways, and there are so many resources.
Now,
I mean, from podcasts to the internet. I just honestly, and then the way AI is coming into play. I mean, I don't usually use ChatGPT, but I was curious about a business.
I know, it's crazy.
A business transaction that I was just curious, didn't have a specific advisor, so I threw the information in there. And if you've used it, it'll say, here's a couple more questions if you don't mind answering. And it takes you down a rabbit hole of some pretty accurate information. And again, it's all just pulling from data and how important data is. So I guess that's where, even when we're talking about these first-time investors, like, you can sit and go through so many scenarios of investment opportunities, real life, that work in different communities, and know how your dollar might work there. So again, it's like, you don't have to recreate the wheel, but you have to be willing to learn on the regular. And again, that's where I clearly don't know everything, and I don't know the next best thing. One of the things that I had talked a couple times about as investors is, do we go into that Airbnb model? And my struggle has always been, there's a lot of ongoing maintenance, whether it's the sheets, the cleaning. But then I get into these long-term rentals that I've had that haven't had their walls wiped down or the floors cleaned, and I'm just like, oh. Where is that middle ground so that I can feel confident in a long-term real estate investment and it's being taken care of? Like, do I implement and create a cleaning service and just require all of my investors to quarterly get it cleaned? It gets eyeballs on the unit. If it doesn't need clean, maybe credit the tenant. Like, there's so many business opportunities and things to do. But I think what Fresh said too, listen to some of these ideas, try to implement them. If it doesn't work in your market, don't be afraid to pivot. And I think, so I go back to what's the most important: staying relevant and being willing to pivot. Be nimble enough to not be like Fresh. You definitely need a plan. And I think that was the hardest thing over the last 2 years for me liquidating property, is that when I started 22 years ago, I thought I was going to buy and hold to gift these to my grandkids. And it doesn't even make sense to do that in certain situations. Do you know what I mean? Like, better to churn and then move your money into something like, just like a Monopoly, 3 green or 4 green houses trade for a red hotel. It's kind of that same thing. So I started in a lot of single families and multi-units. And I think I want to focus more on the commercial side of things as an investor going forward. You know what I mean? So it's changed from 22 years ago because I can see how different things work. And the Airbnb thing is still something of consideration.
I think the Airbnb thing is great.
Ancillary business along with it, like FreshFold Laundry. Like, I would be hiring Fresh, and to the point where Fresh needs to hire one person to handle his Airbnb accounts. Yeah,
Well, that's the way we work on getting him the contracts with those bigger companies. That'll be the big deal.
There's just so many. There's 100 ways to skin a cat, but it goes back to, you can't be lazy. Not only can you not be lazy, you have to be assertive. You have to be willing to ask questions. Like, all they can say is no, or I don't want to.
You got to advocate for yourself. You have to.
Yeah, being assertive is huge. I think you touched on a couple of things here, Labe. I think being assertive is so important. Is, like you said, like, it's one of those things where, like you said, it's only a couple of answers that's going to come out, right? Yes, no, or a much more detailed answer, or a much more detailed form of someone telling you yes or no, right? And so the bottom line is, just do it, right? Jump out the plane. Give yourself an opportunity to fly or to get a couple lumps, and those scars will remind you of the mistakes not to make in the future.
100%.
I would say that. But just to touch on a couple of things, when you had the initial question about the education,
yes,
further your education, and you should always be learning, right? It goes back to what I said earlier about sometimes a teacher, always a student. I'm always a student. I'm always going to be looking to learn. You don't know. Laban also mentioned about being relevant. Being relevant, I look at it as from that things change. So if you are taking if you have the investment mindset from 20 years and 30 years ago, that doesn't apply to this current market. If you don't have a pulse of the market, if you don't know what strategies work in this day and age, then you're not relevant. And no one can. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't work anymore. So you need to know
negative obsolescence. You mentioned obsolescence earlier. Like, obsolescence of a building means this structure doesn't work anymore. And we're running into that with big boxes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But negative obsolescence is like the city of Erie housing stock when you don't have ample, I can't even think of the closet space. Literally, the closet spaces are when people had 2 and 3 dresses. So from off-street parking because they didn't have a car. So that's all negative obsolescence. And I think, again, you're exactly right. And I don't mean I need to stay relevant, Laban Marsh. I'm saying I need to understand relevance of what's going on in the market, because if you're, to Fresh's point, talking to investors like you did 20 years ago, I can assure you you're not guiding them properly. If you're saying verbatim what you were telling them 20 years ago, like the markets have changed and how you pursue that. And I think that's where, from my perspective, if I were starting out again, I would have started with partnerships earlier. It was just me and Meg. It worked out. I added Lucas, then we added into bigger. So and again, take it. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that's where I say, I think if you seek advisors, partners will come. The other thing is, as you start to invest, people find out. And so now when they become sellers, instead of sometimes talking to real estate agents to list it, they talk to investors because they'd rather not show it. If you're willing to pay them about what they want, or we can negotiate it, I'd rather sell it there. So it creates a lot of opportunity and good dialogue to try as investors to get yourself more opportunities. And I'd rather turn down opportunities than never be, reached out for those opportunities. So when you become an investor legitimately, people start to catch word, and you will find more opportunities than you ever had, because people now know you do that. As long as you can take it.
Let me go to our last sponsor here, and then I have one more question for you guys. Finally, we have James Whitfield of Luther James Insurance. For the last 3 years, James has dedicated himself to the art of financial services. He specializes in life insurance and insurance policies. He will save you money, make you a boatload of money, and do so tax-free. He also specializes in retirement planning, because we know the stress that goes into thinking about retirement. How much am I going to need? For how long? Do we have enough? Because fear of the unknown is real. To contact James, go to www.lutherjamesinsurance.com. All right, so Fresh, I wanted to ask you, because I think this is very important. A lot of people are impulsive. A lot of people like to make decisions on the spot. They don't do their due diligence. How would you say investors can maintain or improve discipline, and then also having patience during this time of market uncertainty?
I would say, patience is very key. I think people need to do things that require patience, right? It's like anything else. You have to train yourself to do certain things. Some people innately just are more patient than others, but sometimes some people, you need to learn how to play chess. Play chess. You will have to be patient to play a regular game of chess, unless you are playing like speed chess on the clock. And that could be something that you advance to that, right? Learn to do things that force you to, or put yourself in positions where you have to be patient, because then now you're conditioning yourself to know what that feels like. It's easy to say someone be patient. After a while, especially most of the people we're talking to are adults, and they are starting to get more set in their ways. If they lack patience, that's just kind of what they do. They can say that they can be like, okay, I'll be patient, right? And then, but the reality of it is like, are you really being patient if you're just kind of like chomping at the bit? You can see like in your facial expressions, you just want to, certain things. So it's different. That's very difficult. So train that muscle, right? If you will, to be patient, and then it can easily cross it over to other things. So that's one. What was the other part of the question? I know I heard it, but
can I interject though, because I will forget? And when you talk about patience, I'm sitting here with biting my lip with zero patience.
Okay. Yeah.
But I would push back on patience, because I don't have it. I'd like to think you don't need it. But
no, you're impulsive.
I do think you need to be able to delay gratification, which I think is different than patience.
Yes, you're right.
Because when I think I'm not patient because I will just keep, like, whether it's the ADHD, like I got to keep doing something. So I'd rather be doing something towards that goal than being patient to wait for it. Like I'm talking about assertive, go get it. You know what I mean? So, but I do firmly believe in delaying gratification, which I want to say is similar to patience. And again, I just don't have it. So that's why my word is listen. And I bit my lip while you finished your statement, but I had to get that out because I think patience is important, but I would say delaying gratification is more important. Steve, what was
it'll pay off in the end.
Yeah, I think delayed gratification is a result of patience. You'd be surprised. You're more patient than what you believe you are, Labe. Here's the thing. You have to be. For one, you cannot be a coach and not be patient. For the most part, you cannot be, I would say you cannot be a good parent and not be patient.
Yes.
Your children make you more patient than what you were, right? Even if you
that statement is good. More patient than what you were.
Yeah, so
but it's still like
again,
that
so that's still patience, right? Is it, you know, because think about it like this. No one ever gets a little bit pregnant. You're pregnant, right?
There's no half pregnant. There's no half pregnant.
So you're right. So you have the patience, right? You have the patience. So you have it. So it's one of those things. So the discipline part, right? I think the discipline is patience will kind of be a byproduct of it and help you lead to you having that discipline as well. Discipline is doing what you just delayed gratification is a result of discipline, because
exactly
when you go to the gym the first day, right? It's you don't have the results that you want.
No.
90 days out, 120 days out. And it's all about, and the way that you stay disciplined is that, again, it is doing the, what is it? It's doing the simple, or the doing the unsexy, or whatever, you know, I'm trying to use the right words, you know, I know Labe, you said something similar. I'm trying to think about what it was said.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of how
you're doing the basic or elementary things, or just the simple things over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And
doing the little things takes care of the big things. Yeah.
Yes.
It's something like doing the little things takes care of the big things.
Yeah. So it's just pick something small and stay disciplined with it. Right. Very simple, right? They got this is a good book. I don't remember how I read it before. I think I might have did an audio book with it. It's by a military professional. I think it's called Make Your Bed. Right?
Every morning.
I mean, he had to
set the tone.
Right? You know what I'm talking? It's like make your bed. It's like it's called Make Your Bed, or Make Your Bed Every Day, or something. The whole premise is about how important it is. He wrote a whole book about how the impact of making your bed every day.
Is it? Yeah, it is.
Else. So the first one of the first victories, small victory you should have each day is just make your bed. I don't care how sloppy it looks. Pull those sheets back, throw the pillow.
No.
It's made. Guess what?
Discipline.
You have the
accomplished something,
and you've accomplished something today. Yeah. And it snowballs. Okay, I made my bed. Now I sent the 3 emails I need to send. Okay, I responded. I did. And then next thing you know, I accomplished a bunch of things today. And if you just keep making your bed, it will be the precursor to the successful all the other things, which you don't look at it as day 1 as discipline, but day 30, day 60, 90.
It'll pay off.
Discipline has happened. Now you have a thing. And I would just encourage people. So when you want to develop discipline, and you want to develop good habits, I'm a firm believer in all habits. A good model to follow for all habits to creating a habit, good or bad, and you can see the pattern, is 21 days. 21 days is seen to be, I don't know what it is.
That's the time frame.
21 days. By the time you do something 21 days, you're more likely to keep doing it.
You are.
And it falls for if you're going to eat unhealthy for 21 days, more than likely you're going to keep doing it.
That's how you build your routine.
The discipline of making your bed, you do the same. So I think discipline is having habits and starting with something small, and it will grow into something big. Just like the things that we've done. We probably started with our own home that we lived in. And then next thing we know, 20, 25, 30 years later, we have portfolios of things that spent off of other things. And I look at most of the things that I've done, and my wife and I have done, it has happened as a result of some of the seed money that happened from like our first home. And the craziest thing is,
was that the one you wrote the letter to?
Yes, the letter we wrote was no, that was not. Our first home was in Brooklyn. We had a co-op.
Okay.
But here, look how crazy this is. And this is something I would encourage. I've talked about this before. I would encourage people with kids, with teenagers approaching college to do. Invest in your kids in ways that especially if you're in real estate. I would encourage, if your kid is going somewhere away to school or somewhere or local, wherever that is, let them experience campus the first year and do that. By that summer or that spring summer, start to encourage them, or you work with them to identify some property in or around that campus to potentially have for the next year. You get that property, have that, they would have built some friends and have some friends and potential roommates, because either you're on campus, you got roommates, you don't know who, you don't get to pick a lot of the time. So you get to pick these roommates, these 2 or 3 roommates you have. In this property that you purchased, you live in a property, other roommates are helping, more than likely they don't, and I would not disclose it. It's my property. I would not, and I strongly encourage you not to disclose it's your property. Just say, I found this great place for us to live. Who wants to live here? They look at it. Most of the time, they're like, yeah, we live on campus.
I'll collect the rent. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a relationship with the landlord, or we can all pay it separately to.
See, I can't get away with
They
this.
have apps and everything for that. They have all the apps and everything for that now.
Yeah.
Then you go, okay, you live there, and over time, over the 4 years, the appreciation, things that will happen just in that 4 years is seed money for you to do other things. I mention that because that is exactly what my wife's parents did for her. She lived in, when I met my wife,
wow,
she had her own house in Tallahassee that she lived in. And, and I didn't know, she's like, oh no, my parents bought this house for me. So they brought it with another, they collaborate with another, like one of her like line sisters in her sorority. They owned the house. And when they sold the house, after the 4 or 5 years, she was in a 5-year program for a master's degree. That was the seed money.
She had something to
down payment money for our co-op in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
That led to the properties in Baltimore. That led to North Carolina. Yeah. That led to Texas. That led to to PA, to Florida.
Wow.
So really take it back.
Her seed money back to that
from what her parents did is the reason why we have the portfolio we have now.
That's
which
amazing.
Is the American dream of you getting into real estate. And that's why it's very important that you invest. You get in there, get in the game.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and one of the ways for people to get in the game, as you mentioned, like when you go around that summer looking, and you go into a college town, you're going to see the for rent signs. And I tell investors / buyers all the time,
I know where you're going with it. Yep.
I will call if they have a for rent sign. It's a great time to call and say, hey, I saw you have a for rent sign. Is there any chance you'd be looking at selling that building? So for investors that aren't sure what to do, drive around, look at for rent signs, look up the owner, call and see if they'd be willing to sell it. I bet you, it might not be 50% of the time, but you're going to get a conversation that might be like, well, I'm just looking for a tenant right now, but, I might consider selling it, and give them your number, and maybe you can help them find tenant. That's the sort of things when you're just starting out, you want to figure out, what can I do? Find for rent signs, call the owner, see if they'd be willing to sell. It's just one way to get started, but Fresh, that's such a great idea as far as what you're doing, how to get started. I agree. We've talked about it before. And you want to know the market, like if after 5 years, will I be able to resell this and at least recoup my money? Because you've made it in the tax write-off and paying yourself, but you don't want to get jammed up. Or what happened to me, like we invested in the Mercyhurst area, and then Mercyhurst went and changed the rule for their local athletes and said, hey, after you got to stay on campus freshman, sophomore, junior years, because they just built a brand new dorm tax.
Right. You can't live off campus.
So you had 178 athletes that had to move from off-campus housing back on. Now, if you have 3 kids per house in 175 homes, it's like 450 single-family homes that were servicing college students that no longer could service college students. So we went from having tenants at $1,400 a month to then regular families at $795. It changes both the value of your property now and certainly your cash flow. So, I mean, those are, again, we've warned people of municipal laws and rules, but as far as the principles and what you're talking about there, 100% the best thing you can do for your college-age student, if you're paying off-campus rent, look at buying that for them. Yeah. And listen, and if it's in your local area, like we've got Gannon University, Mercyhurst, Penn State Barron. Once my kids are out and I live here, I can rent that to their friends or my other kids who are coming up through. So it doesn't have to be 4 or 5 and get out. It could be put it on a 15-year note, get it paid off, and then just let it cash flow. So great stuff, Fresh. And congratulations to you for marrying well.
That's a great.
Also, in your due diligence, it's not a bad idea to look into your future potential spouse to see if they have financial literacy and some backing, because that is the best partner you're going to have is your spouse, 100%.
Prerequisite. It's a prerequisite. I tell my kids, teaching them, it's a prerequisite. You need to know
that, and she's got to be 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah, I have to have the financial discussion. Fresh, you had something else you wanted to add?
Nothing else. I mean, thank you guys. Not really. I mean, you mean to that question? I would say no, because we were still in the
I thought you
discipline
were
part. No, that was just a spin-off of the discipline part. I think. I mean, we've said a lot in terms of that. I think hopefully the points were received that we were making. That one, you got to get in the game. Labe gave a perfect example of getting in the game. That's how you get into. Oh, what I was going to add. I was going to add. Thanks for saying that. So when from that perspective of looking at the for rent signs, you could take it a step further, right? It's always different. There's always different strategies. I always try to present them. You ask them, do they want to sell? Or you ask them, would they be, in the process, would you be willing to do and in the process of them saying, yes, I'd be willing to sell, another option, would you do a lease to option, a lease to own, rent to own, right? So that's another way to kind of get in there where, like it's all beneficial. It's all beneficial to both parties. It's like a win-win, depending on how you set it up, where, all right, you basically get a trial run of kind of like, this is your property.
You're basically paying a mortgage almost, doing it that way.
For them, essentially. You're taking over management. Yeah,
you're basically, it's your house, and as long as you exercise the option, you're good. If you don't, you just kind of lose all of the money that was going towards the down payment. So essentially, the way a lease to option works is, let's just say the rent is
bail out
$1,000. You may be like, all right, they'll raise it to $1,250. So now $250 is going towards it's going into like going into escrow, and that's your down payment money. As long as you execute the option, that money goes towards down payment. You don't execute the option, that money goes into HIP National Bank, right? So,
did you say HIP National Bank?
HIP National Bank. Yeah, HIP your pocket. So
that's great. I like that, HIP National Bank.
So it's all those are options. That's a way to kind of look at it. But that's so key. I'm glad you said it, Labe. Just that is. You got to think outside the box. Everybody's
started.
Like,
yeah.
Nothing against realtors, but just for rent by owner.
No, that's it. I mean, listen, I tell people when I have to call people, I'm like, I am a licensed agent, but I'm calling as an investor. Like, I'd like to buy it, and now I've turned a lot of those. Like, hey, I'm considering buying this. It's not going to work for me, but would you like me to help you market it? And so I've turned a lot of those like investor inquiries into a listing opportunity as an agent. You know what I mean? So but it goes back to a lot of what Steve does. Create a network. Start talking to people, dude. Ask questions. Like Steve's greatest quality is his curiosity. Like I think the reason he does so well on this is he's sincerely curious. He's smart, right? It's just he's
really,
sincerely curious. Bro, you're smart. Don't stop.
I am curious, but yeah.
Bro, you're smart. Listen, you got 15 shows, bro. Stop it. Like you're smart. And that's what I love is that you are still curious.
Very curious.
And we should. Like that's the old who was that European soccer coach that the dude loves all our UConn hoops girls. I can't even remember his real name. Sadakis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Don't be curious, not judgmental.
No, I listen.
Show was.
Listen, I learned more about
the made up show. You talking about with
Ted Lasso.
I like
Ted Lasso, right? Yeah,
Ted
don't
Lasso.
be judgmental. Be curious. That's one of the greatest lines of that show.
Dude,
his mustache was not as strong as mine.
Dude, I've learned more about real estate and life insurance in the past few months than ever. So believe me.
See that curiosity.
Yeah. No. Well. Yeah. But
almost killed the cat.
Great show, guys. Great show as always. Sorry for keeping you longer. You had some great answers there, and discipline and patience. We started off with 50 viewers, and got to 100 and 1,000, and now the numbers that we're at.
Sky's the limit.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So you guys have done a phenomenal job building the show and kind of pivoting it to real estate and business and investing, which I think has been a big help because anything
fun, man.
With finance is very popular. So I give you guys credit for doing that and having the expertise to answer people's questions and provide great insight, analysis, and really guidance and advice, and that's what they need. So for Laban Marsh, King of Real Estate, Erie, Pennsylvania, Nedvonne Young, entrepreneur extraordinaire, owner of FreshFold Laundry Co. in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Again, we thank Matt Newsy, top RE/MAX agent in Connecticut. To work with him, go to newsyrealestate.com. And you can connect with him, and he would love to work with you. And remember, life gives you lemons. Don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back at life.